Hey there! Today we will be comparing a LaunchNotes versus Beamer. Now, organizations that center on product development and frequent changes to their software will need to communicate with customers and internal and external users. Now, it's important that these communications are managed professionally and quickly, especially when you've got critical updates to make. Now, tools like GetBeamer or Beamer and LaunchNotes help you to create, manage, and inform users of product changes and updates via release notes. So, this will help you keep your customers engaged and also centralize your communications and feedback. Now, when looking at tools like this, there are a lot of similar platforms that can help you manage a process. However, although at a glance they may look like they do similar things, I can tell you that they have very different features. We will jump into some of those advanced features today, and hopefully, this will help you make a decision on which tool is right for you. Now, at a quick glance, before we jump into all the details, too long didn't read. Beamer is really great, lightweight solution that is more focused on customer engagement, in-app updates, so like a widget, for example, feedbacks, surveys, and NPS monitoring. That is a really big focus for them. Their NPS functionality is really great, so we will have a look at that as well. Versus LaunchNotes, which is better fit for organizations that are really strongly focused on product management, aligning internal and external stakeholders to product updates. And it's probably best suited for mid-sized organizations that need more advanced user segmentation and roadmap management options. So they do that quite well. I will take you into some of the roadmap features today, which I really enjoy using. Now, in terms of pricing and plans, they do offer tiered pricing and tiered plans. The pricing is quite different in terms of the tool platforms. However, let's jump into some of the core features of the tools. Now, starting out with Beamer today, really great, fantastic tool. I really like the basic setup, so it doesn't take you long to get set up within the app. However, they don't have a onboarding page, so to speak. However, they do have an onboarding icon here. Now, if you're not sure of how to use a tool like Beamer, they do have a Explore Beamer functionality here that is created with user flow. So user flow is something that you can use, and you'll see an icon for this. It is a paid for add-on. However, this does help you with guided onboarding. So I'm going to take you straight through an example of this for now so that you can see what it does. You'd have the ability to navigate to various pop-ups that would lead you to specific functions within the app. So let's jump into one of my favorite ones, which is the changelog, of course. So you would be guided to go to the changelog. You'd be able to preview information that you've got. So if I've already created an announcement or an update or a release note, for example, I would have ability to see how this would look for my customers. So we can see here are some basic updates that I have released. We do have things like the functionality here, which tells you what it is. You could click on this, and this would take you to the announcement on a standalone page as well, which I quite like. It is in preview mode. However, you are able to see additional functionality such as the Ideas tab, roadmap, and who this announcement is aimed at. All right, so going from your sneak peek straight through to creating your first changelog post, super simple to do. Now, if you do have needs to create specific information with regards to your post that is aligned to different languages, you do have that feature as well. That is something that is configured, and it's a really great tool to have if you do have multi-language support requirements. There's a long list of language options that they do have, so you are able to configure this within your system. I do want to say though, if you are adding additional languages, that you will need to create updates across the app in quite a lot of the spaces that you need that language to appear. You would then simply just create a title enter in your content. You do have the ability to add images, links, embed content like videos, for example. You can add contributors or users and additional information and emojis and that kind of thing. So really super simple, easy to add the information. You do have option to add links here. And you will then be able to continue with this information. And what I do like is that you can see how the different changelog options appear. So again, if you've got this requirement to have an in-app, you would be able to see that as an option here. So here we go. Here's our in-app. You will be able to also see standalone information, which we had a look at. You could see what a push preview looks like. So you would need to allow notifications, but you do have ability to view a number of different options, including email, top bar announcements, which I think is quite a nice feature to have, especially when you have users that don't like to read a lot of text. You do have the option to have a pop-up, a snippet, and if you've got content, a tooltip which appears on the left-hand side here. So really, really great in terms of the options. And then again, you can create categories that will allow you to segment your audience, and you'd simply save and publish. Super simple to use, pretty straightforward. So here's some examples of some categories so people would know what information is being distributed. I quite like this, especially where there's a bug fix or a critical update that needs to go out. You want to see this information at a glance so that you don't have to go and search for that information. Again, you can set future dates, which I quite like. And you at any time have ability to preview the app, which is a useful function. So overall, quick, simple, really easy to get that information out there. As mentioned, they do have feedback and idea gathering as well. So we'll take a quick look at that feature in terms of what they've got. In general, I actually do find the page loading speed quite slow. Hopefully it's not just my PC. But in terms of using the app, it's a little slower than I'd like to see. Here's Beamer's own update there popping up on the side. So you can collect feedback on behalf of different users, which is a great functionality to have. Otherwise, you would be able to collect this information on the tab here, for example, where users can submit some ideas. They would be able to add their title, content, select a category if need be, and submit that information. It's then collected in the dashboard here, and it's shared across so that you can manage this. You be able to add categories for this. You'd be able to add votes as well and manage your ideas within the app here. I do like that you can filter on specific ideas that have been submitted and also ensure that you've got your filter for visibility so you can see what is visible to public or not. And you'd have ability to preview this as well within the app. So you've got that function here. And here's an example of where you can change your language. So again, super useful for users. As mentioned, you'd have your roadmap feedback here and ideas. And in terms of your standalone announcements, you'd be able to select the language options in the post here as well. Now, this is in preview mode, so you may not be able to see that at this point. However, you can see your preview language depending on if you've set that up. So this would be available for widgets, updates, and product ideas within the app. Overall, super simple. I do like that they've got this set up and configurable quite easily and quickly. That being said, let's go on to, I would say, the shining crown jewel in terms of what they've got on offer. This is where Beamer really shines. So their NPS dashboard is incredible. They've got a lot of configurability when it comes to NPS or Net Promoter Scores. And you can see in terms of the dashboard a lot of information that's been gathered already for the last few days. You can filter on this information as well. So if we want to see from beginning of April to today, for example, we would be able to see that information at a glance, which I quite like. Now, you are able to configure this in quite a lot of detail, but here's an example of some feedback. You'd be able to see detractors, neutrals, promoters. If there were any NPS emails that had gone out, you would be able to see this functionality from within the tool itself. Going down to their settings, because this is something that I think is really useful within the tool like this, is that you can configure this and customize this in quite a lot of detail. So in terms of the widget, you've got a lot of options just to toggle this on and off. But let's go straight down to the bottom and let's have a look here. So in terms of appearance, which I think is quite important, you are able to select emojis, for example. However, if you want this changed to a 0 to 10 or a 1 to 5, you could also change this and add different options for button colors, for example. You also have the date range that you can set as default here, multiple choice feedback if you do require something like that, so that users can submit additional information when giving feedback if that is important to you. You would simply save your languages if you need to set this up as well. So as mentioned, you've got a lot of language options, for example. However, you can see here in terms of the content and wording, like I mentioned earlier, that you would need to go and set all these fields in terms of translated areas so that you've got this set up if needed. Once you've saved your settings, you will be able just to have a quick look in terms of what you have as your NPS dashboard, how this looks as well. You would be able to preview that information. So now that we've saved this, we have moved away from emojis, and I can simply preview this information in terms of what our users would see. But overall, really easy. I like that it's configurable. There's a lot of additional configurability, such as custom CSS, which I know that my product teams really love. And overall, just a lot of really great tools within the app. Now, I do want to mention that although there's a lot of functionality in terms of um, the app itself, it is important to know in terms of billing that a lot of these tools are add-on tools. So you would have to pay for this as well in terms of the additional pricing. So we've got a pricing structure for Changelog. You would have a pricing structure for your NPS plan, and you would have a pricing structure for your feedback plan as well. So do keep that in mind if that is something that you're going to need. However, it does give you a lot of flexibility with the pricing plans because you can pick and choose what would work for you and your organization if you don't need such advanced capabilities. Cool. Let's have a quick look at LaunchNotes. Now, LaunchNotes similarly has a really good onboarding experience. Theirs is configured slightly differently. So instead of having the pop-up in the right-hand corner, you would have an onboarding checklist, which personally I love. It feels a bit more structured for me. It feels a little less chaotic. And you would simply go and click on any of these items to get going. Once you've gone and customized all the information, such as your domain, your page, your email templates, you could add custom HTML and CSS, and a lot of general settings to the app here, which I quite like. So really quick and easy to get going. Once you've moved through the onboarding, these items will become ticked off so that you can make sure that before you get going with your first announcement, that you've got this all set up according to what you need. Now, you can set up categories as well as labels within the app quite easily. So this would give users an idea of which parts of your product have been affected by change. So for example, we want to only communicate information about our sales or demo environment, and we maybe want to add a label such as a bug fix. This will help users see this information at a glance. I like this. Super configurable. You even have the ability to add hex colors to your labels, which I quite like. Now, some of the standout features that we can quickly have a look at. Number one would be a roadmap for me. So this is something that is lacking in Beamer. And if you are in the product space, you do need roadmap management. Highly recommend looking at LaunchNotes. Super configurable, super easy. They've got a lot of drag and drop features here. You're able to edit and customize this information really quickly, add images and text to your product roadmap items, assign users, add projected release dates, and then, as mentioned, add categories and labels so that you've got this information at a glance as well. Now, if you're not sure how this would look to users, again, you can make use of a preview tab that they've got here, which I really like. And you can make sure that this is aligned to what you're needing and that it looks polished and neat. You do have an option to toggle the view to list if you've set that up so that users can see different views. And again, they'll be able to see things like bug fixes or environments at a glance, which is really useful. Now, if we toggle this back, I do want to mention that you are able to add ideas and then add feedback to announcements. That is something that you can set up within the app as well. Users can leave feedback here. This is also centralized, which is really useful. Now, going back to our roadmap, as mentioned, once you've gone and configured this information, you would simply preview and update and publish. Super easy, super manageable. It's not super advanced, so that becomes a nightmare to configure, which I think some of the tools are a bit overproduced in that area. However, let's have a quick look at our announcements. Announcements are super easy to get going. They've got a lot of really great templates here on offer. Now you can simply create a new draft from a template that you've added to your library. Really great templates on offer as well. We're not going to go through that, but if you need additional insight, I would recommend signing up for the free trial. You do have ability to see full feature sets here, and you can have a look at some of the great templates that they've got. Now, I've used one here in terms of a new platform. We can see that they already add a lot of the content for you. You're able to add things like logos, additional information such as links. And then one of my favorite tools to use is the AI assistant. So this is something that stood out for me on this app. I really like this feature. You're able just to select the text that you want to use as a prompt in your AI assistant. You would simply generate this information. And then if you like the information that you have received, you are able to insert the AI output into your post, add that there, update the information, and you would be able to then publish this. Now, just to note that they do have an option to pin your announcement to publish this or schedule this as well, which I quite like. It is updated in your time zone. And then you'll be able to update your categories, add your labels, add your roadmap items if that is linked to a roadmap item. And then one of the new features are cohorts. So we can't add this here because this is a published post, but if I wanted to create a new draft and then add my cohorts, I can do that. Again, you would have to have set this up before, so we'll go and have a look here. But you are able then just to add cohorts. So this is a great feature that they've recently updated. You can then further segment your database in terms of specific users you'd like. And this is really useful for teams that really do need to focus on customer or user segmentation. Let's have a look at that quick feature. Now, under audience, you are able to add specific users. You are able to add domains as well. And then, as mentioned, taking a look at cohorts. Now, these are targeted at specific groups. For example, I've got VIP customers I want to always communicate with. Some of these customers may not be subscribed to updates that appear within the tool. So what we want to do is create a cohort list for those. You could simply create your cohort details, add your name, your description, and then add your users or subscribers. You can also add domains at this stage as well. So overall, super easy to use. There's a lot of other features here on the app that I'm not going to go into, such as digests. However, at a quick high level, digests allow you to set up a set of communications or updates that need to go out, group them together, and publish those in one go, which is a huge time-saving tip that I really like. Overall, hard to pick between the two. and it is something that you'll need to look at. I would recommend trialing the free versions. LaunchNotes does not require you to add credit card details. However, GetBeamer does. So just have a look, see which one may be best suited for your business. But at a high level, while they're both excellent, I think once you've decided on your primary goals, LaunchNotes is probably best for your mid to large size organizations. If you're needing to align internal teams with things like product updates and those that need more advanced roadmap management, I'd recommend looking at LaunchNotes. However, if you are Beamer and you need a really lightweight, slick tool to help you manage customer focused and in app updates, especially focus on NPS and feedback, I'd recommend having a look at Beamer. Thanks for joining me today.